Let's talk Nvidia. Jason Snipe. Basically been dead money for 8 months. There's a lot riding on it for it and the group of the hyperscalers, who, by the way, have been largely in correction. In case you haven't noticed, Nvidia is down 13% from its high. Microsoft 14, Alphabet 15, Amazon 11, Meta slightly less than that. After its 20-day win streak, Meta's sort of reversed a bit. It's down 8% from its high. Escalator up, elevator down. And that's what's happened to some of these names. But what are you thinking about for Nvidia today? Moment of truth.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the moment of truth, Scott. There's a lot riding on the print today. You know, when we heard about the DeepSeek news several weeks ago, 17% drawdown, almost $600 billion in market cap lost. Obviously, that had an impact on the stock. Now we're hearing again about export controls and what that looks like. But what I can say, what has been reiterated from the hyperscalers is CapEx spend has not changed whatsoever. This DeepSeek news had no real impact on those numbers. We're hearing from Microsoft $80 billion. We're hearing from Meta 60 to 65 billion. We're hearing from Amazon $100 billion plus dollars in CapEx. So what we need to hear, Scott, is $38 billion of revenue. We need to hear a guide of $2 to $3 billion over and above. So that would put us at $42 billion for the quarter. We need to also hear about insatiable demand. That, I think, is what we need to hear today. And I think they will do what they need to do, and I think the print will be really strong. Okay, let's bring in Christina Partsinevelos now to tell us whether Nvidia can, in fact, meet this moment, the moment of truth. Because the goalposts may have moved as it relates to the DeepSeek day. That really sort of changed the conversation in some respects towards Nvidia. The company has, I think you would agree, sort of found itself a bit on the defensive since then. So today's even more important.
Yeah, they've definitely been on the defensive, saying that they're still more relevant in the inference stage. But the stock price has retraced about 2/3 of its value since that drop in January. If anything, what we're seeing is Nvidia coming closer to its fundamentals. Liz pointed it out that it needs to go back to the fundamentals, right size the valuation, which is what, 33x right now, still below its 5-year average. For Nvidia, Jason spoke about it. It's the $42 billion buy side number for the guide that we're really looking for. And I bring up the buy side because it's the first time in 2 years where those buy side expectations have actually dropped to fall in line with consensus. So everybody is a little bit more tempered going into this. You have the DeepSeek, you have the U.S. export controls, you have the air pocket that's going from Hopper over to Blackwell, and then the next iteration of Blackwell, which would be the Blackwell Ultra out later this year, the B300. So those are three factors. You have gross margins that are coming down to about 72.5%. We knew this, management warned of it, but still, nonetheless, it's there. So these are several factors that are weighing on the stock, but I think the major thing is going to be that guide and demand momentum for Blackwell into the next 4 quarters.
Yeah, Christina, thanks for setting that up perfectly. You got a busy day, and I'll see you throughout the day, obviously. All right, Jim. Goldman today says options are pricing in a plus or minus more than 10% move. Okay, either way over the next 2 days based on what happens. There are others who have sort of suggested that this is a really important moment for the market as a whole.
I think it is very important for the market. I'll take the 10%. I think that's going to go to the upside, Scott. I look at the valuation. I look at the business metrics. Jason, what you were saying, you know, it's hard to see demand falling off. I think that's what Christina was saying as well. So let's look at the numbers. The stock trades at 30 times forward earnings for a stock that's about to show net income growth and earnings per share growth of greater than 100% year over year. For the forward year, that's projected to 50%. 50% versus a 30 times forward multiple is a very attractive multiple. Now, stocks can always go down, all right? And we know, Josh talked about this yesterday, that for the last several quarters, when earnings have been announced by Nvidia, they've been fabulous, the guidance has been fabulous, and the stock has gone down. So how the stock trades tomorrow or Friday is immaterial. At this valuation, given what looks to be insatiable demand, I forget if that was you, Jason, or Christina who said it, and the growth rate in earnings per share, I'll take that 10% to the higher, Scott.
are you thinking about this?
It kind of feels to me like Nvidia is running in place.
Well, it has been. That's what I said. It's been dead money for a while.
So it's up 5% since August 28th's earnings report. Here's what's interesting. I went and looked at some of the things that I'm utilizing in the momentum strategy itself. And this will be the first earnings report for Nvidia since the middle of 2022, where if you look at the return for the stock versus where it was on the last earnings report, it's negative. It's actually down since the last earnings report. That has not been the formula for Nvidia for the better part of the last several years. I also looked into the options market, and interestingly enough, it seems as though you're getting more of a premium that's being paid for the puts versus the calls. Again, that's interesting information. Collectively, you put that all together and you say that there seems to be more of an openness, there seems to be more of a willingness to push up against what has been a really, really strong bull market for Nvidia for the better part of the last 18 months. I don't know necessarily that that's the right play. I think that where Nvidia is right now is really in a process where it's going to be consolidating. You could utilize 115 up to 145, and I think you're just going to be basically see it ping pong back and forth in that range.